It was Mother's Day last year that, here's where I'm going to cry. Like 35 people signed up to come and hear that. And that was the big moment where I was like, wow, okay, this can work. And this is something people are interested in. I couldn't even speak at that. It was like, I literally just had to press play.
Welcome to the Ill Noise Business Playbook. We sit down with people building real impact in their communities and unpack the vision behind their work. If you care about real stories and real connection, you're in the right place. Let's make some noise. All right, welcome to the Ill Noise Business Playbook. I'm here with Cynthia from Marshmallow Moon Sound Bath. Cynthia, how are you doing today?
Hi, I'm fantastic. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, Cynthia, you are definitely somebody that means a lot to us, and I'll tell you why. For two reasons. One, we ask some very simple things to get on the show, and I know you're aware of those things. And all we ask for people to do is just engage with our social media. And I know we'll talk about the second part why I like you so much. But the first part is I've never met you. I don't know who you are, but I know who Marshmallow Moon Sound Bath is because I see them liking and commenting and everything else on our social media. And of course, you know, we don't just ask people to do this for us. We'll do it to you too. So we really love that reciprocal relationship that we've established. And the other thing is, and we're going to talk about your business later on, but we love when people kind of extend their arms out and say, hey, why don't you check us out before we do anything? And I know my wife and one of her friends had the opportunity to kind of experience what you do. So just want to let you know from my standpoint, very appreciative of you and very appreciative of the fact that Neha got to have a little fun at your rendezvous. So thank you so much for that, Cynthia.
You're welcome.
Absolutely. Now, before we get into your business, we were kind of talking a little bit beforehand, and you've got some really cool passions. And let's let the record show the very first thing that you said that you were very passionate about was your family and your loved ones, and that's beautiful. But I like to consider myself somewhat musical. There's not a karaoke bar that myself or my wife don't enjoy strolling on in. But you're also a music fan. What kind of music do you like?
All kinds. I love jazz. I love world music, Latin jazz, electronic music. I kind of like all the music for the most part. If it's really good, I like it. I'm very off the beaten path with my music taste for the most part.
Love it. You're open to everything. What was the first concert you ever went to?
First concert I ever went to, I don't know if it would count because I was a little kid. My parents, we lived in Colorado, took me to Red Rocks to see the Moody Blues.
My gosh. Nights in White Satin, right? Isn't that the song?
Yes, absolutely.
Man.
And then I guess the first probably relevant concert that I was like, I want to go see. I was in 5th grade and I went to see Tears for Fears.
Well, you and I are probably a lot closer to age than you think because I can tell you with confidence, ever since I first heard them, I realized that not only you or me, but everybody can rule the world, which I think is really pretty cool with that band. But that's cool. Tears for Fears, Shout and oh goodness, Great band. I love it. Now I know you had been, but prior to doing what you're doing now, painting was something that you're extremely interested in. Where did that desire come initially to do painting? It sounds like you had been doing so for quite a long time.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I had a house painting business for about 7 years, and honestly, I kind of fell into it on accident because I was at a fork in the road of needing, financial circumstances changed and I needed to work. And a friend of mine was like, well, come paint my house. You're so good at stuff like that, because I'd always painted my own homes and bought houses and then fixed them up, rented them out. Da, 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 da. Anyways, long story short,
Nice.
It could be a long story. Next thing I know, everyone's asking me to paint their homes. And then I jumped to now I've got a truck. Now I'm on Angie's list. Now I've got a few small crews. A couple years in, my husband left his job and joined the party, but it's never
Nice.
really his thing. So he kind of did it for a little while with me. But that's how that all happened.
Okay, so all of a sudden you found it. Well, first off, you painted a great picture on what you had been doing. These corny jokes don't stop, Cynthia. So, but you certainly made a transition to what you're currently doing. To say that what you're painting and what you're currently doing are a little different, I think would be a very safe assessment. But let's talk about Marshmallow Moon Sound Bath. What inspired you? What sort of got you thinking to yourself, you know what? I'm done painting. I want to do something different.
Well, there was a lot of things going on with Marshmallow Moon behind the scenes for a couple of years before I made the leap. And the leap was kind of forced on me because my body couldn't paint anymore. This old lady couldn't be painting all day, every day on 20-foot
Sure.
extension ladders and doing all the crazy things I was doing. My body was saying, hey, you need to stop. But I guess back up, I had become very interested in sound mixing and I was creating, you know, meditations and bedtime stories, which was inspired by my youngest child, who at the time, I would always tell my kids bedtime stories, but I would make up like really kind of trippy, fantastical bedtime stories, like
Sure.
on a marshmallow in outer space and, the crazy things like that.
Sure.
So my son was like, Mom, you should make like a YouTube channel or something with your weird bedtime stories. And so that's sort of like what got it going. But fast forward to what really got Marshmallow Moon going was a friend of mine heard some of my recorded meditations that I had made. And she said, you need to bring this to the yoga studio that I work at. And I resisted her for like 6 months. I was like, I don't know, I don't see how that lands in a yoga studio. Then, my sister said to me at some point, you have all these instruments, I love music so much. I mean, I've been collecting djembes, congas, different percussion things.
Nice.
My family started gifting me things like singing bowls. My gong was a gift. A lot of my seed shakers were gifts. So the whole, everything was kind of pushing me, funneling me into this direction. So when the light bulb went off of like sound and, and the recorded stuff and merging those together. All right. I had this Mother's Day meditation that I had made like a year ago. And that was the one that, we were like, let's bring this one to the yoga studio. And so I edited that recording so that I could then incorporate all my healing instruments. And so it was Mother's Day last year that here's where I'm going to cry. Like 35 people signed up to come and hear that. And that was the big moment where I was like, wow, okay, this can work and this is something people are interested in. Um so I couldn't even speak at that. It was like I literally just had to press play on the the recording. So it was probably
Beautiful.
kind of strange for the people who came that I couldn't even speak because I was just like, through the whole thing.
I love it.
So yeah, so here I am. That's how it took off. So I'm sorry if I'm talking too much, trying to answer the whole thing. So I was still painting during that. I still had my painting business, but my body was more and more saying, no, 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 you got to stop painting. My shoulder froze. I was
Mm.
getting dizzy spells, and
Oh,
I was perimenopausal. Now I'm like just in the menopause. But so it's like all the planets and stars and everything were saying, stop painting. It's time to move on to something else. So I closed my painting business in June, about a month
okay.
later, really being, again, I can't emphasize being forced enough because it was a successful, lucrative business. It really was, but I couldn't do it. And so I sold all my stuff. I sold my van thinking, okay, this will buy me the time to just go 100% into this new Marshmallow Moon dream that, you know,
Sure.
I'm sure still sounds kind of crazy to people, but making it happen, because I feel so strongly about it. I eat, sleep, and breathe and dream it, but truly.
That is so beautiful. There's a lot of people out there that were doing something for a while and they decided that it wasn't good. You say it wasn't good for your physical health. I can tell you with confidence from being in the corporate world for 20 plus years, it wasn't good for my mental health. And I always joke with people, I had a 4-head when I started in the company. And now I have like a 6-head and stuff. But I think it's really beautiful that you decided to kind of follow your heart and follow your passions. And the trippy thing, it's funny that your kids kind of would joke about you doing like trippy stories and stuff. When I was a kid, there was a show, and maybe you're going to understand this reference, called Fraggle Rock. Do you remember that show at all?
Yeah. The rules are there
Do you know
are
that?
rules, and those are the rules. That was a famous thing from
Yes.
Frag Rock that I love.
It's Yeah, it doesn't surprise me that people like us that grew up with that show would end up having trippy stories, by the way. And do some research on how that show started, and you'll see what I'm talking about later on. But what I, I love the sound of Marshmallow Moon Sound Bath, but I got to be honest, one of the things I was thinking of as we are getting ready to start this is, what does it mean? But why did you come to that? Like, tell us a story about how you came up with that name, because it's pretty dope. I like it, but tell me about it.
Well, I really was creating this. alternate world with my what had started with stories. And I wanted it to be sort of like we go on a journey in our minds to this other place, the Marshmallow Moon, and the marshmallow, it keeps a whimsy, there's a softness, it's an outer space, it's cosmic, so it just kind of hit all the points. It's not too like a spiritual healer, it's a little more dabbles on psychedelic a little bit.
Yeah, it does.
So, and my son, my youngest, he helped. We brainstormed it, and one of the stories that I would tell him was, involving a marshmallow moon. You're melting into the marshmallow. It's soft and squishy, and all that stuff. So I just kind of like tied that all in.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. How have you been able to learn? How have you been able to perfect what you're doing? What sort of research are you doing? Do you need to get formalized educations to do these sort of things? But how are you continuing to progress with what you're doing and how you're providing what you're doing?
Well, when I started, first was decided I was going to bring the instruments in and everything, I did take a bunch of courses. So while I was painting for the last 6 months that I was painting, I had in my ear all my online courses. So I have 3 certifications in sound healing, playing the sound instruments that goes all into the science and the benefits and the history and all that stuff, which in the end I've decided probably doesn't ultimately matter. But so I've got all the information. And at the end of the day, it just, it was a good idea to do that because it solidified it helped my confidence, with what I was doing. And already being musically inclined, I could, play the instruments and make them harmonize and whatnot. But yeah, and then as far as continuing, I am part of different online groups for, sound bath facilitators, sound healing, and we all sort of share information and support each other and things like that. But
when you do these events, when people come to do the sound baths, is this a one-person show or do you have employees that are helping you make these musical sounds and stuff like that throughout the sessions?
it's pretty much a one-person show. My sister comes and helps me when she can in terms of just helping check people in. There's a lot of setup. I bring a lot of stuff to set up, audio visual equipment and all my instruments, da 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 da. And so my sister, she wanted to play some of the instruments with me, so we do. But ultimately, it's a one-person show because I know she won't be able to help me forever. So I have to know that I can do it on my own. So most of the time, I'm playing the instruments on my own.
When you were younger, were you in band? I mean, it sounds like music is plays such a big part. I mean, did you play any instruments growing up? And now I suppose you can play multiple instruments.
I played guitar growing up. We
Nice.
moved around a lot when I was a kid, a lot. I never went to the same grade school or to any school for more than a full school year, all the way up until high school. So unfortunately, in retrospect, I slipped through the cracks of learning music in school because by the time I got into middle school, I tried to play the saxophone in band and I didn't know how to read music because we moved around so much. I just never got the recorder. They start kind of teaching you how to read music at some point in school in music class. So, but my dad taught me how to play guitar. So, and I still dabble in guitar sometimes, but I have so many other, I love percussion. I mean, I love playing my hand drums and my congas and all of that stuff. In an alternate world, I'm in a band playing, hand drums and a tambourine, and I'm the, oh yeah, girl. But
That's
never
that's
too
awesome.
late. Maybe I'll do that in retirement.
What was the reason why you guys were moving around so much?
No, I guess my dad's job. I don't know. Moved
Okay.
around all the time.
I was thinking the military backgrounds, but none of that.
He
Just sort of
started
moving
out in the
jobs.
military, but I don't.
Okay.
I was a kid. I don't. It was just it was my norm. Oh, I get to be the new girl again at school.
Sure. Well, it probably helps you a lot with your business, quite frankly, because if you're always a new person, you always have to find different ways that you can connect with folks, different ways that you can relate with folks, and it makes you very adaptable, which is one of the things I respect about people so much is when they can adapt to different And, let's be honest, we'd have some different circumstances today that we'll just keep between the two of us here. But you really showed some wonderful stuff there. How are you getting the word out about what you're doing? Are you going to, networking groups? Are you going to fairs? Are you involved with the chamber? Like how exactly do people get to learn about your business and how do you get to grow your
Yeah,
business?
that's a good question, and there's no easy answer. I find that community is really the biggest thing. I'm on social media. I have a
Yeah, you are.
website. I have a Google page. A lot of times when I ask people how they found my events, they say Google. A Google search, apparently people are looking for things like this. I run Facebook ads or Instagram ads. I don't honestly know if they work, but I'll tell you what does work is community and connecting with other people and businesses who are willing to share, and it's the world that we're in, it's like you got to be visible on the social media, or like you're invisible. And, I have, as a business owner, I understand that it's important for your people to engage and to like and to furthermore and to share and everything else. But I think people who don't own a business don't understand that. I don't know about you. You have friends and family that they're not chiming in, and I think it's either they're not seeing it or they don't understand the importance of community and sharing. Um, I think that's the best. Social media, I guess, is the biggest thing.
For sure. And you do have a really strong presence on social media,
Try.
and which is great. It definitely, Neha and myself found how important it is. And you are right. What we always talk about is what we call igniting the algorithm. And we're really big on that. And you've talked about that. I mean, and I wish people would understand this, especially with small businesses like yourself, when they like your post, love your post, comment on your post, share your
Yes.
post, it just gets in front of so many more people,
And it's free.
right?
It's free to,
And it doesn't cost anything. And it doesn't cost anything.
yeah.
And I really, one thing we try to do with what we're doing here is we're trying to really show people why that's so important, not only for us, but for them as well.
Hmm.
And wouldn't it be a great world if we could all just
Yeah.
help each other move forward and with such simple things like that? But you're doing a great job. So keep it up. And
Yes.
I promise you, Cynthia, Neha and myself will keep liking your stuff, loving it, commenting when we can, sharing when it makes sense. When you got events and stuff, we'll be there helping you along. When you first got this running, I know that first time you got it running, it became rather emotional for you. But like when did it really was it that first event where it really kind of hit like, boy, I can actually like really make this happen?
Yeah.
This is going to work out. Like when did it really crystallize? Like, boy, oh boy, I don't need to worry about hurting my bones anymore with the painting. I need to worry about healing people's souls with what I'm doing here.
Yeah, I would definitely say that first event was the big, like, the universe or God, saying, "Hey, you can do this," and you should do this. Yeah, that was definitely the aha moment that I was like,
That's so
"Wow, this
beautiful.
is I don't know why I didn't think of this sooner."
Do you go to locations to do this as well? I know you have a location that people can go to, but do you go to others? Like, do you go to business events? Do people come see you and say, "Hey, listen, my team really needs an opportunity to just kind of cleanse themselves. Can you come here and help us out?" Like, do you go on the road with this stuff?
I do go on the road. I don't really have a space. I mean, I do have a space in my home if someone wanted to just have a couple people come. For the most part, I go to venues, collaborating with places. Like I work with the Crystal Lake Park District. I do events there every
Nice,
other month. I'm with the Streamwood Park District. I do events there
nice.
every season right now. And, I'm only a year in, so I'm going to do my second event with them next month. There's some yoga studios. There's the Haight in Elgin. So I go to different venues. I also
Okay.
offer private events and corporate wellness events, which is what you just asked about. So
Yes.
company can definitely reach out to me and say, "Hey, we want to do something different for our team than your happy hour. We want to do a wellness thing." So certainly I come to them and set up and create an experience to unwind everybody and calm them down or inspire, absolutely.
Love it. Love it. What now, as far as this is going, like how do you continue to stay up to snuff with what's happening in your field? Is it just constantly being involved with those groups, constantly continue educating yourself? But how do you make sure you're staying ahead of the curve?
The groups are really big. I do go to other sound practitioners events also,
Okay.
but it's, you know, at least from the way I'm doing it, it's an art. It's my art form. So in some ways, it doesn't matter all the other stuff because it's my art that I'm creating and presenting, and it just evolves that way. I mean, I really think of myself as an artist, an immersive sound artist. So
I love it. It's beautiful. What uh, what sort of challenges have you found with doing this from the time you started to where we're at right now?
well, so every now and then there will be an event that not enough people signed up for. And then, there's that
Okay.
decision of, well, do I cancel or do I show up for the 4 or 5 people who did sign up? And
Sure.
I've done both. One time in December, there was an event that I only had, I think, 3 people signed up for, and it was freezing cold out and everything else. And so I was like, no, let's cancel this one. But there was another time, there was an event in Geneva that I think I had 6 people, and there wasn't terrible weather. And I was like, well, they want to do this, I'm going to do it. And we did it. And we had a more intimate experience, and it was great. So that's one. Predicting how many people are going to come, and that sometimes I have to pay a rental fee to rent the
Okay.
space. So it's
Sure.
like there's got to be the math has to work also. Because I'm paying to rent it, and but most of the time enough people come. I mean, those are really the only 2 times where it was like, what do I do? Do I cancel? It's growing. It's slowly snowballing. And I try to
Great.
do at least a couple events a month. All winter, I was doing like at least 4 events a month. I think as we roll into
Wow.
summer, I'm going to dial back a little because I think people will get busy and want to be outside. And, you know,
You've I assume that you've had somebody that has done one of these sessions that came in with some reservations that were kind of came in thinking like, I'm going to be fully transparent. My wife, who you've met, when she told me she was doing this, I remember thinking to myself, what in the world is this all about? And I was having reservations and stuff because my wife is willing to do anything and everything at all times, and she loves to experience everything, and she's much more of a risk taker than I am, to say the very least. But can you think about somebody that has done one of these sessions with you that you knew coming in was kind of like, and then when they were done, they were like, this was amazing. This was awesome. Can you think of somebody or some buddies that kind of fit in that category?
yeah, I think a lot of times people that come to my events are first timers because I'm trying to break a little bit out of the, stereotypes of sound healing and wellness and everything. I want to reach everybody. I want to be approachable that, anybody and everybody can come. So a lot of times there are first timers who come to my events, and I'm going to specifically point out sometimes when couples come, like a woman brings her husband, and I have had
Uh-huh.
after events, particularly a husband, say, oh, I didn't know what she was bringing me, into, but wow, that was amazing. And well, I was
Oh,
snoring 10 minutes in, and, so yes. And I'm glad you asked that question because I continue to try to emphasize that I want to be approachable. Like what I'm doing is for everybody. There's a lot of people in the world that for whatever reason or another, would never go to a yoga studio or do yoga or go to a quote unquote, wellness event. And I want to reach those people too. Like what I'm doing is there's nothing scary or, ritualistic about, it's just, come and have a little creative, like an immersive experience, I guess is the best way to say that. And I would back up. There's nothing, I mean, I'm all for the wellness community and yoga and everything else. But I'm just saying that I think that I want to reach all the other people too. I want to bring them into the Marshmallow Moon for it's its own thing.
you. I think when people watch this, they're going to be extremely impressed with how passionate you are about what you do. And I think that's one of the things that connects so many of our guests that I'm so proud of to be affiliated with. That people just love what they're doing, and then they kind of are spreading that love. And, I don't want to sound too darn hokey, but I just think the world would be a better place if people were just doing what they're passionate about doing and then trying to share it with others. I think that makes a lot of, I don't know, I think it makes the world spin around a little bit better than it can be in other conditions. Cynthia, we really, really, really appreciate you spending some time with us here today. I think you did such a wonderful job explaining your why and explaining the how and explaining exactly what makes you the right person to be doing what you're currently doing right now in the world and all the goodness you're trying to spread. So on behalf of myself and Neha, thank you so much for spending some time with us today.
Well, thank you. And thank you guys for everything you're doing. I mean, wow, you know, for you practice what you preach, with everyone doing what they're passionate about and helping each other out and embracing community. So thank you for
Man,
having me.
thank you. That means so much. You have yourself a wonderful day, and so well said. If everyone could just be like us, darn it, Cynthia,
So awesome.
we could really move this world in a good direction, right?
All right.
Take care of yourself,
Thank
okay?
you.